seat. We call it a slip seat because it slips out via usually 4 screws in the bottom. So I've unscrewed these 4 right here, and you see it slips off. So that's why it's sometimes called a slip seat. Some people call it stair pads. I think is always to take your staples out on the corner. Alright, so we've got these 2 corners loose, okay. If you had, now this particular type of slip seat, you can see it's rounded back here. If you have 4 corners, go ahead and take all 4 corners. I don't really have 4 corners. Alright, but I'm going to cheat a little bit on getting this fabric out of here. I'm going to take a razor blade, fresh razor blade, nice and sharp. I'm going to put my finger close to the edge so that I don't cut too deep into the foam. I just want to cut the fabric. So put my finger there on the edge, and I'm just going to go across there like that, and that. Alright, so I've cut an X across here. We can fold this back, fold this back, fold this back, and then I'm going to flip the whole shebang upside down now. So we're back to the back. Now, here's those corners I've taken off. You can kind of pop those around. So you can save yourself a little bit of time on the straightaways. A lot of times, I hope this will work, a lot of times, if you're just careful and you do a quick tug like that, you can just pull them off. That's what I'm going to try to do. Save myself some time. Okay, so layer 1 is already off, but the previous upholster didn't help me out any. They stapled right over top of the previous layer, so now I gotta take off the second layer. So normally I would take out more of these staples, but I'm gonna have to because of the way these staples are set up. It's just crazy. So go around and make sure now, if you have any staples that are really sticking out far, there's a few right there, you can go by with your wire cutters and pull them out. Like that. I see some of them are kind of sticking out. Pull them out. The important thing is you do want to have all the fabric out. Okay, so the chair is now stripped, and you can go around here with your hand real careful. Make sure there's nothing else sticking up. You basically got it laying down. That looks good. Okay, it's basically stripped. Again, I didn't take out all these little pieces because of the particular staples that were in there. Usually it's a lot easier. Now you want to evaluate your stuffings. Really, you just want the Dacron to go around the edges of the foam. The Dacron does not need to go to the back of the board, because when you staple, you want to staple fabric and wood only. So we've already done 2 things. We've unscrewed the slip seat. We brought it into here. Okay. Then we've stripped the fabric. Then thirdly, I believe, we've evaluated whether it needs new foam or not, or new stuffings of some sort. In this particular case, we added a little square of Dacron underneath the foam, and then another thin layer on the top. So we get a little bit of a crown. Looks a little more plush, a little bit more luxurious. Now we're ready for what you've been waiting for all along, and that is to add the fabric. So here you see I have cut my piece of fabric. It's approximately 27 by 27 inches. This is the face side. I'm going to turn it over to the back side, okay? And then we're going to take our dining room chair and lay it on top of it. You might take a quick look and just make sure there's no objects or things sticking to the Dacron before you set it on there, and then you got a bump on the thing, but you can see it looks clean. So we're going to lay this on here. Okay. Now, if you have a pattern, your situation is more difficult. If you had a pattern, let's say you had a cabbage rose right in the middle of this, well, you want to make sure it gets centered on your chair. How do you do that? Well, you could fold the fabric directly through the center of your rose or whatever it is you're centering, and you can put a little notch right here and right here on the top and the bottom. Okay? And then you could also make a fold across your cabbage rose here and here. then follow that procedure for all 6 chairs or 4 chairs or how many ever chairs you have. Then the other thing you'll do is you're going to take your piece of wood, find the halfway point, okay, so this is 15 inches across, the halfway point's 7.5, and we'll try another mark up here at the halfway point, and we'll make a mark all the way across here like that. Oops, that didn't work. There we go. Okay, and then so when we start, we'll make sure that this is centered properly, and we'll line up this notch with that mark and this notch with that mark, making sure that this is roughly in the center, and then that way we'll get the same pattern in pretty much in the center of all 6 or 4 or how many chairs you have. If you have a solid though, you don't usually have to go to this much work because it's a solid, there's nothing you particularly have to line up. I usually start in the back. Okay, if you have the notches, you'll line up the notches. I'll go ahead and do that, but it doesn't really make any difference on a solid. Now this is important. Everyone always asks, well, how hard do you pull this fabric back? Well, here's what you do. You take your thumb and finger on either side, and pull it as hard as you can. Then press on the foam, and you'll get another 1/4 inch or 1/2 inch, depends on how much, and that's how much you want to press it. Now take your left hand and hold it while you take your right hand and staple. Okay? You can take your gun and put it slightly sideways. These first few staples don't need to go in here all the way. The first 4 staples are called positioning staples, and oftentimes they get removed, but they just set it up for you. Alright, so we put a staple in the back. We're going to come around to the front, pull it tight by hand, then step on the foam and you'll get just a tiny bit more. That's how tight you want to make it. You want to put your staple in about 1 inch in, and I'm actually going to slightly tilt my staple gun, and that's so that I can get this staple out very easily because it's sort of sticking up there just a little bit, because later on I probably will have to take them out. Alright, so there's the back, the front. Now put a staple on the side, pull it tight, and press on it a little bit more. Staple. Okay, same thing with the other side. Pull it tight, press on it, get just a little bit more. Staple. You want it pretty tight. Occasionally someone gets it too tight, but usually they get it too loose. So you want it fairly tight, I guess I would say. Alright, now what I usually like to do is I'll take my scissors and I'll cut right to the first 4 staples. That releases the tension there and gets the fabric a little bit out of your way, makes your job a little bit easier. Alright, now I'm going to go ahead and do 4 pulls all the way around here. And when I pull, I'm going to not staple the last 3 inches of the fabric. So I take my thumb and finger here, I'm pulling, and I'm going to pull at a 45-degree angle, okay, so that this is really tight across here. That's what you want. What you don't want to do, and this is the mistake a lot of people do, is they pull it and they put a staple. They pull it, they put a staple, pull it and put a staple. What you're going to get is a lot of ripples going across there, so don't do that. You got the staple in the middle of the side. I just take this and put my thumb right there, and I'm pulling at a 45-degree angle. Now I'm right-handed, so I've got to pick up that staple gun, so I take my left hand and just press there, and I'm going to put, it depends on how long it is, in this case maybe 3 staples back towards the center. 1, 2, 3. Okay, I'm going to spin it. I'm going to do the same thing here. Pull it, put my left hand over there, put 3 staples back towards the center. 1, 2, 3. Now this is where I really don't need my hearing aids because there's no sense in amplifying that sound of that gun, so I'll just take them out of me. Alright, here's the same thing. Now this is a curve, so it's a little bit different, but you're going to look for a nice smooth line across here. So I'm pulling it at a 45-degree angle, and I'll put maybe 3 staples back to the center. And here's my 4th side. I'm going to do the same thing. You can take your hand here a little bit and press along that to give you a little extra, and you're looking for a smooth line there. See how smooth that is? And we'll go 1, 2, 3. So I've done it 4 times. I did 4 pulls. Now I'm going to do 4, I guess we could call them pushes, but they're not really. It's just the opposite direction. So now I'm going to have to use my left hand, and I'm going to pull it this way at a 45-degree angle. And I'm going to do the same thing. I'll put 3 staples towards the center. 1, 2, 3. And then we'll grab this one. Side number 2. Run your hand underneath there. You're looking for a nice smooth line. 1, 2, 3. That's the second side. Here is the third side. Okay, we're looking for a nice smooth line. I'm pulling at a 45-degree angle. 1, 2, 3. And here's our fourth side. Same thing. 1, 2, 3. Alright, now notice there's no staples 3 inches from the corner. This is a rounded back, so there's a little bit different procedure on this. We'll come back to that. I'm just going to concentrate on the front corners right now. We're going to go ahead and fold over our front corners. So take the corner so it's facing towards your stomach. Take your thumb and forefinger, press, get that pretty tight, and you're going to put a staple pretty close, about as close as you can, to that corner. See that? Right there. Okay? Now we're going to do the same thing with the other front corner, right there. Put a staple close to the front corner. There you go. Right there. Now we have these things, they kind of look like puppy dog ears. Okay? That's a lot of fabric in there, and it causes bulkiness right over here when you got a lot of fabric in there. So one way to minimize the bulkiness is we can cut right to that staple and right out. In other words, we can cut out this rectangle that sort of looks like a puppy dog ear. So we go right to the staple and then right away. It's sort of almost like a 90-degree angle. There you can see it's kind of a rectangular shape. There and then right away. Okay, so that's going to get rid of the extra bulk. Alright, now you want to work your corners. Alright, so I'm going to go ahead and take this corner here, and we want to look for this pleat here, and we want this pleat to be on the board, but as far close to the front as possible. So you're looking for a nice smooth line, and that looks pretty good. Okay, I'm going to put my staple such that one leg of the staple is on this side of the pleat, and one leg is on the other side of the pleat. Sometimes people put 2 staples, like that. Okay, one leg's on this side of the pleat, one leg's on the other. While I'm still holding it now, I'm going to connect these over like this. Okay, now I can come over here and do the same thing to this side. Going to find that pleat. We want it on the wood but close to the corner as possible. Take your hand underneath here. You're looking for a nice smooth line, and that looks pretty good. Okay, I'll put a couple staples there, and then I'm going to connect it over like this. See that? Now, this is extra fabric that you don't need, so take your scissors and cut it close to that staple right there. Get it out of your way so it won't cause any extra bulk. If you get too much bulk on the front, then when you go to put it into the chair, there may be a gap that you don't want, a light gap, and it doesn't look good. Alright, now we're just going to go ahead and go this way on the front corners. Again, you're looking for that pleat. There it is. You're looking for a nice tight pleat there, and then go ahead and staple that. Then you're going to connect over to the previous staple. Make sure it's nice and smooth. There we go. Well, we'll do the same thing on this front edge. Find the pleat. There it is. You want it close to the corner but on the wood. And then connect it over. Okay, again, this is a little bit of excess. Now, it's not a bad idea to have a hammer with you. Occasionally your staple won't go in on the way. This is not a hammer, but it'll work. But you can take a hammer, and if these are sticking out a little bit, you can trim those out. Alright, we'll trim that out. Okay, so that's what it looks like from the front. Okay, coming out pretty good. Now we have rounded, I don't know, is there such a thing as rounded corner? We have a rounded corner in the back. I don't know if it's a corner, if it's rounded. But anyway, In the back, we're really going to do the same thing. We're going to pretend like that's a corner, bring it towards your stomach. We're going to pull it over, nice and tight, and then we'll put a staple there. Okay? Then we're going to do the same thing over here, nice and tight, put a staple there. You really don't have to cut these dog ears out, but you could do a little cut right to the staple. Okay, now our goal here, you see we have a pleat in the front where the corners are, but on the rounded corners, we try to, as much as possible, avoid any pleats, at least that can be seen from the front. So here's what you do. There's your staple, and what you want to do is you want to create, there are pleats, but they're underneath here, but there are no pleats on the side. That's the key, okay? So sometimes you have to do pleat, staple, or sometimes if you can luck out where you can just go right across. So I've already got the pleats, everything's smooth. I'm just going to connect it over. Alright, if you can do that, that's easier. I'll do it the little more tedious way on this one. Now we're going to go this direction. So here again, you find a pleat, staple, pull again, find another pleat right there, pull again, find another pleat, like so. So yes, there are pleats on this side, but you can see it's almost completely smooth on this side. That's your goal. On a rounded corner, you don't really want any pleats that you can see. Now we'll come to the other, quote, rounded corner. And again, we're looking for a nice smooth line right here. If we're lucky enough, we can just hang on to the thing, which I can do, and that just looks nice, and I'm just going to connect it over. Sometimes you have to do the pleats individually. Depends on how your fabric reacts. Sometimes you have to, sometimes you don't. Here I can just run it across. Okay, we're almost done. Now here's a good time to cut out all your excess here. So just take your scissors and go along here. Sometimes people use a razor blade, but it's a little more dangerous. Okay, now let's flip it over and see what we got. It should be coming together. You can see that looks kind of nice. And it's a little bit rounded because we added that Dacron underneath and a little bit of Dacron polyester on the top. Now it is a little bit tight right here in that center, right here, and right here, and even a little bit right here. Those correspond with your four initial positioning staples. You got to take those back out. So grab your wire cutters, and because we have a little lip here, it's fairly easy to take that out. That's going to release the tension there in the center. There's the other one in this center. Whoops. There we go. Here's the front. Okay. And here's the fourth side. So what that did is it released a little bit of a tension there, and now we don't have any puckers on the front. Occasionally you may have another, I call them puckers, a little tight spot. If you see a tight spot, actually I'm looking a little bit, there may be, it's kind of tight right here. Follow around where the tight spot is. So I'm going to take my finger back around, and it tells me maybe that staple there might be a little bit tight. So I'll go ahead and pull that staple out and then replace it. And that seemed to have fixed it. It looks pretty smooth all the way around. I'm happy with it. But are we done? Well, not quite. It's always a good idea to put some black cambric underneath there. It makes it look nice, it looks more professional. And then also, you know, if you do have kind of stringy fabric and stuff and that hangs down, that can look unsightly. The cat wants to play with it, etc., etc. So there's a little function too. So we're going to take some black cambric. And it's very inexpensive. We sell it here at Fabric Farms Interiors. And I'll be right back with some black cambric and we'll finish the job. But that feels good. Right here is another screw too, so it's not a bad idea to put a staple right around there. Now all you have to do is screw this back into the frame. But let's take a look at it. There we go. Isn't that beautiful?